melhor para fazer, só fazer uma versão. 2024, you gotta put it out. You put it out.
Folks, welcome back to another episode of The Fallen Badge. Today's episode, the murder of Constable Darrell Lunsford, Sr., Nacogdoches County Constable's Office, Precinct 3, Texas. Constable Lunsford was 47 years old. Now, he had 8 years as a constable there in the town of Garrison. Garrison sits inside the county of Nacogdoches. The population, even today, is only about 1,100 people. Now, Constable Lunsford, his day job was he ran a auto parts store, and he also had a garage to work on cars. And then in the evening and nighttime, he did a little patrolling. The resource material indicates he was pretty good at interdicting drugs that was coming along Highway 59. Now, Highway 59 pretty well runs from Texas all the way to the Canadian border, so it was known as a major drug pipeline back in the 90s especially. Now, he had a wife and he had 2 kids. Now, the death of Constable Lunsford's, if it's not the first, it's one of the first officer-involved homicides that was captured on video. Now, the video camera mounted in the dash of Constable Lunsford's vehicle, he bought that equipment and installed it himself. That's January 22nd, 1991. You got 2 brothers and their little partner. They leave Houston, Texas. Now, they're operating a 1982 Oldsmobile Cutlass. Now, according to the Federal Appeals Court, which is where I got most of the information for this story, they were hauling 31 pounds of marijuana, and they were heading up to Chicago, Illinois to sell it. Now, it's about 1:23 in the morning, January 23rd, and our 3 suspects rolling down Highway 59, and they get into Garrison. Now, Constable Lunsford, he sees them go by and he stops them. Now, he stops them there on the west side of town. Now, before Constable Lunsford gets out of his patrol vehicle, he activates his video camera. And I'm sure he learned from some of his interdiction stops that video would make the cases a lot stronger because there'd be no lies told in court. Constable Lunsford had his wireless microphone on his uniform. Now, the driver gets out and he's talking to him at the back of the car, and he asks the driver, does he have a license? And he says he doesn't. Well, he goes back and forth between the back of the car and up to the driver's window to talk to the 2 passengers. And just what little he's talking to them, their stories don't match up. Now, Constable Lunsford, I'm pretty sure he was suspecting he had some drug runners on his hand. So now he asked the occupants of the car, could you look in the trunk? And they said yes. Now, right after they say that, the front seat passenger, he steps out of the car. Constable Lunsford tells him, don't get out of the car. But this suspect, he does anyhow. Now, when he stands up, he's wearing a hat, some kind of looks like a cowboy hat or something to that effect. Well, he takes the hat off and he pitches it inside the car. Now, later on, we'll learn that was a sign that the suspects were getting ready to attack Constable Lunsford because the suspect didn't want to mess his hat up. So now the trunk's open and Constable Lunsford's looking into the trunk. There's conversation going on. Now, the front seat passenger, the fellow that pitched his hat inside the car, he walks around behind Constable Lunsford. Constable Lunsford, he stands back up. The front seat passenger has a conversation with the driver in Spanish. Now, obviously, he's probably telling the driver what they need to do or what they're getting ready to do. So then the two suspects attack Constable Lunsford. They get him high and low. They grab him. They get him off his feet. Now there's a struggle over near the right rear of the suspect vehicle, just on camera range. Third suspect gets out of the car and he helps. Now they stab Constable Lunsford and they kick him and they're beating him. They get his pistol out of the holster and they put it to the back of his neck and they fire one round. Now that round, according to the medical examiner, killed Constable Lunsford instantly. Now the suspects take just a few moments and they're looking for one of the suspects' ID card, which he had dropped. They also take Constable Lunsford's flashlight, his pistol, and his wallet. Now I'm assuming that the wallet and the pistol are trophies. And I'm assuming when they get back to Houston, at least in their plan, they're going to show off the trophies they took from a dead law enforcement officer. So they take off down 59 through Garrison. Now there was a sheriff's deputy that had driven by the stop. So he had seen Constable Lunsford with at least two of the suspects outside the car. I believe that's when he drove by. In any event, that car drives past him. And the car is in a hurry. Well, now this deputy, he's not too far from that scene, so he turns around, heads back, finds Constable Lunsford's body laying there in the ditch where the suspects dumped it. So he called for help, and then he went after the suspect vehicle. Now, one of the first officers on that scene after the deputy called for help was the chief deputy of the sheriff's department. Now, he found that video camera mounted in the dash of Constable Lunsford's car. They watch it, they get the tag information, description of the suspects. Obviously, they take that tape back and they make copies and they study in that video while they're trying to catch the suspects. Now, evidently, the suspects realized that the deputy had seen them go by. They probably figured that it was time to lose that vehicle. So now, within a mile of the town of Garrison, they abandon the vehicle and they take off on foot and they take the dope with them. Well, they don't carry it just a long ways and they finally hide it and then they split up. Now, the police would later find that marijuana. Within the next few days, they found the abandoned vehicle. And within the next week, all three suspects are taken into custody. Now, the two brothers, they're indicted on 3 counts by the federal government. 1 count for murder of a law enforcement official while attempting to avoid apprehension for a drug trafficking offense. And then 1 count of conspiracy to possess marijuana with the intent to distribute it. And then the 3rd count was possession of marijuana with intent to distribute it. So you got a conspiracy and you got a possession and then you got the murder charge. Now the federal government, when they got into trial, they decided to go and just drop the counts 2 and 3. So they just took the dope off the table for the trial. Now, the federal government asked for the death penalty, and a federal jury didn't oblige them. They said no death penalty. So the 2 brothers, the one that actually did the shooting, he got life, no parole. And his brother got 40 years, and then the 3rd suspect, who eventually testified against the brothers, he got 30 years in federal prison. Now, that one that cooperated and got the 30 years, he should be up for release 2026. Now that video, I saw it in service when I was in uniform patrol with Memphis. It had a lasting effect, I think, on any officer that ever saw it. Saved a lot of officers' lives. Constable Darrell Edward Lunsford, Sr. End of watch, January 23rd, 1991.